Imagine this. One day, you decide to stop chasing, stop texting first, stop always showing up. And suddenly, the phone rings. They notice you're not there. They wonder where you've gone. That's the moment you realize your absence is more powerful than your presence ever was. We live in a world where being available is mistaken for being valuable. But the truth? The most successful, the most desired, the most respected people are the ones who are missed when they are not around. So today, I'm going to tell you exactly why you need to let them miss you, and how this simple shift can change your relationships, your career, and your life. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you won't just walk out of here, you'll walk away remembered. There's a reason why a limited edition bag is more sought after than one sitting on every store shelf. Why a concert ticket sells out in minutes when there are only a few seats available. Scarcity creates value. And the same principle applies to you. The more you hand yourself over on a silver platter, the less they appreciate your presence. The more you constantly show up, the less they feel the need to look for you. So what's the secret? You need to become someone worth missing. That means prioritizing yourself first. Work on your dreams, build your confidence, set standards for how you allow people to treat you. The people who truly care, they'll notice your absence and they'll come looking for you. The ones who don't, they were never meant to be in your life anyway. So the next time you feel the need to chase someone, to prove your worth by always being there, stop. Let them miss you. Let them wonder. Let them realize that your presence was never something to be taken for granted. Because trust me, when you start valuing yourself, the world will follow. And when they finally come back, you'll have the power to decide if you still want them. Now that is how you make an unforgettable impact. Absence is a language in itself, a silent yet profound way of reminding people of your presence. In a world that constantly demands attention, where notifications flood our screens and connections are just a tap away, the ability to step back is an art and a power move. The people who truly leave a lasting impact are not always the ones who are constantly available, but those whose absence is felt so deeply that it forces others to realize their worth. When someone is always around, their presence becomes expected, routine, even taken for granted. The human mind is wired to adapt, to normalize what is consistent. The more accessible something is, the less we appreciate it. That's why the most valuable things in life, time, love, trust, are treasured when they are scarce. It's not just about physical presence, it's about emotional and mental availability as well. When you are always there to pick up the phone, always the first to reach out, always saying yes, people unknowingly begin to place less value on what you offer. The moment you step back, however, everything changes. Your absence forces a shift, creating space for reflection. People start to notice the void you leave behind. They think about the conversations, the laughter, the support they once had, and suddenly realize how much they miss it. Absence is not about playing games or manipulating emotions. It's about allowing people the chance to appreciate you in ways they never could when you were constantly present. It is about teaching others, without words, that your presence is not a given but a privilege. It allows you to see who truly values you, who notices when you are gone, and who makes the effort to reach out instead of just expecting you to always be there. The ones who matter will show up. The ones who don't were never meant to stay. Stepping back also does something extraordinary for you. It gives you the space to refocus on yourself. When you are always giving, always available, always prioritizing others, you can lose yourself in the process. Absence is not just about making others miss you. It's about rediscovering your own worth. It is about reminding yourself that you don't need to chase anyone to be valued. The people who truly appreciate you will make an effort. The people who genuinely care will notice when you're gone. And when you return, it won't be because you felt forgotten. It will be because you allowed yourself to be remembered in a way that only absence can achieve. The things we desire most in life, whether it's a rare piece of art, a limited edition watch, or a front row seat at an exclusive event, are valuable not just because of their quality, but because they are hard to get. Scarcity creates value. It makes people crave what they can't easily have. This principle doesn't just apply to luxury items or exclusive experiences, it applies to you too. The more accessible you are, the more people take you for granted. The less you give away your time and energy freely, the more others begin to see your true worth. When something is always available, it loses its appeal. Think about the last time you watched a movie that had been hyped up for months before its release. The excitement of knowing it's coming, the anticipation of finally seeing it. That's what makes it special. But imagine if that same movie had been available for free streaming at any time with no waiting. Would it still feel as valuable? Probably not. The same psychology applies to relationships, friendships, and even professional opportunities. If people know you are always there, ready to respond, willing to drop everything for them, they stop seeing you as a priority. They assume you will always be around, and in doing so, they stop appreciating you. Think about the people you admire most. Are they constantly trying to prove their worth to others, or do they carry an aura of self-respect and boundaries? The most respected individuals are the ones who understand that their time, their energy, and their presence are not to be wasted. They don't chase after validation because they know that the right people will recognize their value. They don't over-explain their decisions, beg for attention, or fear walking away from situations that don't serve them. They create an air of exclusivity around themselves, not by being arrogant, but by being selective. And that selectiveness is what makes them desirable. Scarcity isn't about being unavailable just for the sake of it. It's about recognizing your worth and understanding that when you give too much of yourself, too easily, people forget to appreciate you. When you step back, when you create space, when you make people realize that your presence is not guaranteed, they begin to value it more. They start to miss you. They begin to reach out, not because they need something from you, but because they genuinely feel the absence of your presence. And that is when you know you hold power, not by forcing people to notice you, but by allowing them the opportunity to do so on their own. There is an undeniable strength in knowing when to step forward and when to step back. Most people believe that to maintain relationships, they must constantly be present, available, and involved. But the reality is that true connection thrives in balance. Too much closeness and people feel suffocated. Too much distance and they lose interest. Mastering the art of distance is about understanding when to give and when to withhold, when to engage and when to retreat, so that your presence is always valued and never taken for granted. People often assume that being available at all times makes them more loved, respected, or appreciated. But have you ever noticed that those who are always around are often overlooked? It's not because they are unworthy. It's because familiarity breeds complacency. When something or someone is always within reach, we subconsciously assume they will always be there. And in doing so, we stop making an effort to appreciate them. The magic of distance lies in its ability to disrupt that pattern. By knowing when to pull back, you give people the chance to notice your absence, to feel the void where your presence once was. And in that space, they begin to realize just how much you brought into their lives. This is not about manipulation. It is about self-respect. It is about setting boundaries that protect your energy and ensure that you are not overextending yourself for those who may not reciprocate the same level of effort. The truth is, when you constantly give without pause, people become comfortable with receiving and stop valuing what you offer. But when you step back, when you create distance, those who truly care will make the effort to close the gap. They will reach out, check in, and make sure you know you matter. And those who don't, they were never meant to be permanent in your life to begin with. Mastering distance also applies to self-growth. When you are too immersed in pleasing others, in being available for everyone at all times, you leave little room for your own personal evolution. But when you allow yourself space to focus on your goals, your passions, your self-worth, you elevate yourself to a position where your presence naturally commands respect. You become someone whose attention is valued because you are not simply giving it away freely. Instead of constantly trying to be seen, you let your absence make people look for you. Instead of over-explaining or proving your worth, you let the silence speak louder than words. The beauty of distance is that it makes every reunion more meaningful. When you are selective about when and how you show up, your presence carries weight. People don't just see you, they feel you. They don't just hear your words, they listen. And that is how you create impact. Not by forcing yourself into spaces where you are not appreciated, but by allowing your absence to remind people why your presence is so valuable in the first place. Before you can expect anyone to miss you, before you can even think about stepping back to create value, you need to ask yourself a fundamental question. Do I truly value myself? Because the truth is, if you don't see yourself as someone worth missing, no one else will either. Self-worth is the foundation of everything. It determines how you allow people to treat you, how you navigate relationships, and ultimately how much space you are willing to give yourself to be missed in the first place. Many people fall into the trap of thinking that their worth is measured by how much they do for others, how available they are, how much they sacrifice, how often they put others before themselves. They equate constant presence with value. But what they don't realize is that when you don't prioritize yourself, others, when you are always the one reaching out, always the one accommodating, always the one putting in the effort, you set a precedent that your time, energy, and love come easily, without effort in return. And what comes easily is rarely cherished. Self-worth begins with setting boundaries. It's about understanding that your time and presence are privileges, not guarantees. It means knowing when to say no, when to walk away, and when to stop overextending yourself for people who don't reciprocate. It means realizing that being liked is not as important as being respected, and being available is not as valuable as being valued. People who respect themselves don't beg for attention or chase after validation. They operate from a place of confidence, knowing that their presence is meaningful and that the right people will recognize that without constant reminders. Another key element of self-worth is investing in yourself. The more you grow, the more magnetic you become. When you focus on your personal goals, when you nurture your passions, when you become someone who is driven, independent, and fulfilled, people naturally gravitate toward you. Why? Because confidence is attractive, independence is intriguing. A person who is whole on their own doesn't need to be validated by others, and that is exactly what makes them unforgettable. When you build yourself into someone who stands strong, whether people are watching or not, your presence becomes something people desire. Not because you are chasing them, but because you are so focused on yourself that they can't help but notice you. The moment you start treating yourself like you are valuable, others will follow suit. The moment you stop overgiving, people will start appreciating what you do offer. The moment you begin to walk away from places where you are not respected, you will find yourself in rooms where you are truly valued. And the best part? You won't have to force anyone to miss you. They will do it on their own. Because a person who knows their worth leaves an impact that lingers, even in their absence. People are not drawn to those who are always available. They are drawn to those who radiate energy, purpose, and confidence. It's a common mistake to think that if you are always present, always responding, always saying yes, people will appreciate you more. But in reality, attraction, whether in relationships, friendships, or even professional spaces, doesn't come from availability. It comes from the energy you bring into a space, the aura you carry, and the way you make people feel when you're around. Think about the most magnetic people you know. Are they the ones who are constantly trying to be seen, who are always at everyone's beck and call? Or are they the ones who seem effortlessly confident, whose presence lights up a room, who don't need to demand attention because it naturally gravitates toward them? The people who leave the strongest impressions are not necessarily the ones who show up the most, but the ones who, when they do show up, bring something special with them, an energy that is powerful, uplifting, and rare. When you prioritize your energy over your availability, you shift the dynamic in every interaction. Instead of chasing people or opportunities, you become the kind of person that people want to be around. This starts with how you treat yourself. If you are constantly overextending yourself, saying yes to things that drain you, engaging with people who don't reciprocate your efforts, your energy starts to diminish. And when your energy is low, no matter how present you are, your presence won't be impactful. On the other hand, when you focus on your own growth, your happiness, your passions, and your personal well-being, your energy naturally elevates. You walk into rooms with confidence. You engage in conversations with passion. You exude a self-assuredness that people find irresistible. Not because you are always available, but because when you are present, you bring something meaningful with you. This shift in mindset also changes how people perceive you. If you are always readily available, people may assume they can access you at any time, and therefore put less effort into maintaining the relationship. But if you are selective with your time, if you show up only when it truly matters, if you engage only in meaningful conversations, if you make sure that every interaction you have adds value, then your presence becomes something people look forward to. They begin to respect your time. They start reaching out, instead of waiting for you to always be the one initiating. They appreciate the moments you give them because they know they are not guaranteed. Energy is what makes people miss you when you're gone. It's what makes your presence something that lingers, even in your absence. When you focus on cultivating the kind of energy that is uplifting, inspiring, and rare, You won't have to beg for attention or prove your worth through constant availability. People will feel your absence, not because they can't reach you, but because they can't replace the energy you bring. And that is what truly makes you unforgettable. The true measure of your impact is not in how often you show up, but in how deeply people feel your absence when you're not there. Many believe that in order to be valued, they must constantly be present, always checking in, always making the first move, always reminding people they exist. But the reality is, if your presence doesn't leave a lasting impression, your absence won't be noticed either. The goal is not to be everywhere at all times. The goal is to be so unforgettable that when you step away, people feel the void. Think about the people in your life who have left the strongest impact. Are they the ones who were constantly around? Or are they the ones who, even in their absence, left something behind? A lesson, an emotion, a memory, something that lingers far beyond physical presence. When someone has truly made a difference, their absence is felt in the silence, in the empty spaces they once filled, in the moments when you realize just how much they contributed without even trying. That is the kind of presence you should aim to create. One that doesn't need constant reinforcement. One that is powerful enough to be remembered even when you're not there. To make your absence speak louder than your presence, you must first become someone worth missing. This means showing up with purpose when you do choose to be present. It means bringing value, whether through your energy, your wisdom, your kindness, or your influence. It means making sure that when people think of you, they associate your presence with something meaningful, something that cannot be easily replaced. If you're just another face in the crowd, another voice among the noise, stepping back won't make a difference. But if you've cultivated an identity, a presence, a sense of importance in people's lives, then even your silence will be noticed. This principle applies to every area of life. In relationships, the person who is constantly chasing, constantly proving, constantly over-explaining rarely leaves an impact. But the one who knows their worth, who chooses when and how to engage, who creates a sense of mystery and exclusivity, that is the person people can't forget. In careers, the employee who is always available, always saying yes, always overworking without boundaries, becomes just another worker. But the one who delivers exceptional results, who is strategic with their time, who understands the value of their contributions, that is the one whose absence makes people realize how important they truly were. When you step away and people feel it, you gain power, not over them, but over your own worth. You no longer need to chase validation or prove yourself through constant presence. Instead, you allow your impact to speak for itself. You become someone who doesn't just take up space, but leaves a mark. And when you finally choose to return, it's not just another moment, it's an event. Because those who truly matter won't just notice your absence, they will feel it. And that is the kind of presence that lasts forever. At the heart of it all, Let Them Miss You is not about manipulation or playing hard to get. It's about self-respect, self-worth, and understanding the power of your presence. When you constantly give yourself away without pause, people stop seeing you as a privilege and start seeing you as a convenience. But when you create space, when you focus on your own growth, when you show up with purpose rather than out of obligation, people begin to recognize what they had when you were around. The key is not to disappear out of bitterness, but to step back with confidence, knowing that the right people will always feel your absence. The people who genuinely value you will reach out, will notice, will make the effort. And those who don't, they were never meant to be permanent in your journey anyway. So, carry yourself like someone who knows their worth. Show up where you are valued. Step back when you are taken for granted. Let your absence speak. Let your presence inspire. And most importantly, let them miss you, not because you are gone, but because you left something unforgettable behind.